Guys, I'm super excited to introduce you to Dr. Tenesha Wards. Dr. Tenesha has been a long-standing Rippler in my community. She is an unbelievable entrepreneur, and she's doing amazing things in the health space. Want to just give you a very quick bio of her. Dr. Tenesha Wards, founder and medical director of Infinity Wellness Center, supports the top 5% most difficult cases that are often written off by doctors. She founded the Infinity Way program to uncover and correct the root cause of chronic fatigue and other patient symptoms. The Infinity Way custom care plans, followed by her whole team, meet the unique needs of individual patients and help them achieve their wellness goals. Dr. Wards established her practice with science-backed holistic principles that support the whole body health. Her focus is on chronic fatigue, GI issues, women's hormones issues with pre-post menopause to infertility, fibromyalgia, headaches, burnout, and insomnia. She believes in the importance of treating the whole person and not just the symptoms. Thousands of women have found Dr. Wards after not seeing results with traditional practitioners, cookie cutter programs, and expensive supplements. Her holistic approach to wellness means she specializes in finding and correcting the root cause of conditions like chronic fatigue, chronic pain, and fibromyalgia. Drawing from her personal struggles with Lyme disease, autoimmunity, and Epstein-Barr virus is where she finds the fuel to pursue her passion, helping people heal near and far. She is amazing, and I'm so excited for you to meet her. Well, guys, I'm super excited to introduce you to Dr. Tenesha Wards. Dr. T and I have been friends for a long time, and you were one of our first official Ripplers. I mean, you came to some of those early 8-minute Ripple events, and so I'm super excited you agreed to do the podcast because you have blown up as an entrepreneur. I am just, I'm in awe. You know, it's so awesome to see and so incredible. I was telling somebody the other day that had been at some of those early Ripples that kind of remember those days where we, did it at Corey Howe's studio that one time, and then we used to do it downtown. But I was saying how excited I was to interview you because you're proof that a smile and a giving heart really does win out in the end, because you are tenacious in getting your business off the ground and focused on what you were going to do, but you always did it with just the best giving personality that I think I've ever come across. So I'm super, super grateful that everybody gets an opportunity to meet you firsthand.
Well, first of all, thank you. You just made my entire week. I really, really appreciate that. And I really want to dive into the fact that I never wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Let's go.
And then I also want to give a shout out to Corey Howell, who's opened her second location in Hawaii right now through the pandemic. Like, man, talk about COVID disrupting your life and following a dream. She's worked in Hawaii before, so she's a badass.
Yeah.
Hope we can say that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
but yes.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, it's probably been 10 years since we've known each other. At least I've been in practice 16, so probably 15.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I opened a practice, actually I should back up. I bought a practice from a retiring doctor in 2006, 2007. We made the transition, and then 2008 hit, and we felt that dip for a minute.
Absolutely.
And that's probably about the time I was like, okay, put your big girl pants on and go out and figure out how to build this business on your own. You can't just ride the wave of, the clients I've acquired. And that's probably when I met you, 2008, 2009, I suspect. So 14 years. Yeah. So crazy. But no, I never wanted to own a business. I never wanted to manage a team. I just wanted to be a doctor and help people. And I also knew I would make a horrible employee. So when the opportunity arose to take over this practice and be my own boss, like, it just made sense at the time. So
I remember
that's kind of how it started.
In one of our after Ripple events, we were talking over a beer, and you were like, I think at that point you were considering the possibility of acquiring that practice. And I remember us having that conversation and you having that sort of self-doubt. But I remember distinctly you saying, but I'm not really sure that I can go to work for somebody else or be in somebody else's practice. I have so many ideas and so many thoughts in terms of what I want to do. I really need to be sort of leading the bus. And you took that leap of faith. What do you think it was at the time that sort of gave you that, even though you didn't really want to be the business owner or an entrepreneur, what gave you the confidence to move forward?
I don't know that I had the confidence to move forward. I think I think I just knew right? Call it trust, call it God. I think I just knew that I wanted to do things a little different and
Yeah.
against the grain. And I think I've always been a bit of a natural leader, in that I don't want to be told how to do things. And I, when I have an idea, you're not the first person who said I'm tenacious. When I have an idea, like hell to high water, I'm going to make it happen. So I think it just felt natural, although I was scared to death,
Yeah.
like scared to death. I mean, I was 25 years old
Yeah.
when I took over that practice. I didn't know up from down, literally rarely had a real job. I say that I had an undergrad degree and worked in the hospital in radiology,
Yeah.
but while I was going to finish school and go to grad school. So it wasn't, I was also a student. So it wasn't that I was supporting myself. So I never had a quote unquote real job.
Yeah.
So I just knew I wanted to do it my own way, and just kind of probably ignorance is bliss a little bit. I didn't know
Yeah.
what I didn't know. And I just figured it out. I just, you know, built the plane as I flew kind of thing. And now, since I
Yeah.
have read all the books, watched all the podcasts, have joined an EO group,
Yeah.
entrepreneurial organization here in Austin, and spent some time there, and have hired, I think one of the best things I've done in business is hire a business coach. I
Yeah.
did that like 2009, and I was with that business coach for 8 years, and he was
Wow.
specific to our industry for functional medicine, chiropractic offices. And that's what probably helped me put systems in place, learning to hire and fire properly, and all the stuff, reading a P&L. Oh, I also took, here's a little fun fact. When I purchased that practice, I started taking some free SBA courses from the
Yep.
Small Business Association here in Austin on how to run QuickBooks, how to
Yeah.
run payroll. Like, those resources are totally available to entrepreneurs. I think still at
Yeah.
no charge. I got an SBA mentor. Like, if there is a resource, I went to networking groups and listened and took notes to every single speaker who's done this before.
Yeah.
If there's a free resource, I was all over it, because I knew that I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know, but I just
Yeah.
knew I didn't know, and I was open to learning. And yeah, people from the outside looking in are like, "Oh, you've built such a great business." And I'm like, "Oh, but there was some dark moments
Oh,
of,
yeah.
I don't know if I can do this." And I need to take money off a line of credit to pay payroll this month. Like, there are those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that makes you a stronger, more capable entrepreneur when you go through those moments, right? If you just walked in and this was already a successful practice and you didn't really have to get out there and work and hustle, you probably wouldn't be innovating, you wouldn't be creating, and gosh, you wouldn't have done half the things that you've done over the last 10 years, right? It's
Yeah.
amazing to see, because that sometimes that uncertainty requires grit and determination in even in the presence of unknown.
Yes, I tell people, it's not that I'm just really smart at running a business. I just didn't give up.
Yep.
And I just had grit,
Yep.
100%, that definitely, and just pivoted when we had to. We went almost strictly telehealth the last 2 years for the whole COVID situation,
Sure.
and it's one of the best things I've ever done. Now we're treating patients in Canada, all over the country, and not only can we help and reach more people, but we were able to do it in a time where people weren't comfortable coming in. And it's kind of been the best thing that's happened to our practice,
Yep.
despite all the tragedies with it. It's definitely sped up something I wanted to do anyway. I knew I wanted to go on a more national level. I knew I wanted to help more people and go into telehealth. I just didn't know how.
Yep.
um and there's a coach for that I'm now working with. But in the time, it was just like, we got to figure it out. What's HIPAA compliant? What can we hop on, video wise? We just had to figure it out again as we flew.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the things, yeah, well, to back up a little bit, let's talk about the origin story. Like, how did you get into this? Like, when you went to school, was this something that was always kind of near and dear to your heart? And just by way of just introducing to the audience, tell them specifically the areas that you focus on.
Yeah, yes and no. So how I got into more holistic medicine was my own personal story. Most people that are in this field have gone through some sort of illness, ailment, and quite frankly, the short story is Western medicine failed me. I was 15 years old, and literally woke up one day, extreme fatigue, headache, brain fog, every single joint in my body ached, and I was not able to bend a couple of them. literally overnight, woke up like this and had a rash on both my legs from the waist down. And one of them, and anybody who knows much about this is going to be a prelude to what the diagnosis was a very distinct bullseye rash. So much so that my mom took a picture of it. That's back in the day, for those of you that are younger than 25, that we had to like go develop the pictures. And, so we didn't have it instantly, but she kept that picture. And so it was a very distinct circle rash, but I grew up in Flint, Michigan. That's also, I think, pertinent to the story. At the time, nobody knew what it was. I literally came in through the back door of my pediatrician's office. They took one look at me, quarantined me before I knew what, before we all knew about quarantining. They're like, we don't know what this is. We went to doctor after doctor. No one knew it was wrong. I got worse. They put me on steroids. They put me on antibiotics. I ended up on Celexa, Celebrex. So now we're into antidepressants. We're into arthritis drugs. And again, I'm 15. Yeah. I started having some liver dysfunction. I started having thyroid dysfunction. Like I just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And the pain was getting worse and worse and worse. Finally, through my mom's own, and I do a whole intro of her helping me through this, her own research. Again, this is going to be a funny word to some people at the library, because we didn't have, we didn't all have internet, and there wasn't everything on the internet, right? AOL was just becoming a thing.
Yeah.
So she went to the library and started like looking through books of infectious disease issues. Finally came to her own thought that this could be Lyme disease. Then finding a doctor that was familiar with it was a whole another couple months. Finally found a doctor, got the right treatment, did liver cleanses, went off refined sugar and all the things that make these bugs grow, and finally got well. It took about a year. I finally got well. But I didn't at the time think I could be or wanted to be a doctor. Again, I grew up in Flint, very blue collar. I figured I'd go to a 2-year trade school. That's what people did if they didn't work for General Motors in the 90s in Flint, Michigan. Maybe I'd get a 4-year degree, but I just planned to do that. Halfway through my radiology training, I hated my job. I was probably 19 or 20. I was the person.
Oh, you're going to school at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yep. Going to school because I did want to get a bachelor's. So going to school, working in a hospital, second, third shift, outside of Flint, and hated my job. We would get gunshot wound coming in, stabbings, lots of abuse. I was the person who, if you broke your arm and the bone sticking out of your arm, I'm like, okay, we're going to make you hold this position. Even though your like limb is falling off of you, and putting you in CAT scans and things like this. And I just realized it was empty for me. We'd take the x-ray, we'd move on. And I never had the patient connection, the patient care. And I didn't feel good. I was working second shift, sleep was off. I was pulling people on and off ER tables, and I was going to a chiropractor. And I happened to work for her in my undergrad, her front desk for a while. And I was kind of having a little bit of a breakdown. I was like, I hate my job. My back hurts. I'm having to lift people who have been shot. And she looked at me and she's like, you loved working here. Why don't you go? And you have such an amazing story from holistic medicine. Why don't you go back to school and be a doctor? And I was like, oh, yes. Within a month, I finished up the undergrad I needed. I was close to doing that, broke off an engagement, moved from Flint, Michigan to Houston, Texas, and had started chiropractic college, knowing I was going to take a more herbal, holistic, whole body approach to what we were doing at the time. So that's kind of how that happened. And the rest is history. And, I opened up the doors when I took over that practice and was treating things like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, pain, and I just kept getting these thoughts that, well, first of all, I don't believe in fibromyalgia. That's a big statement, but it's just a set of symptoms that there's a cause, versus we don't know why you're in pain. You're just going to be in pain the rest of your life, which was, near and dear to my story. And I started testing people for Lyme disease. And I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things I see in my practice now is Lyme disease. Really? I also see a lot of autoimmune disorders, which I suffered from autoimmune after having my daughter. I thought I was having what they call a flare up of Lyme disease again. It'd been 2 decades since I had been sick with that. And come to find out, doing my own testing, it wasn't. It was an autoimmune disorder. And I was suffering from Epstein-Barr virus from stress and exhaustion. And I was an old mom. They call it a geriatric pregnancy at 36. And my practice was expanding. So I also see a lot of autoimmune and Hashimoto's, which is thyroid issues, and Epstein-Barr virus. More recently, we're seeing a plethora of post-COVID long haul syndrome, which is a whole different diagnosis that is new, and it's making the news a little, but I think not enough.
Yeah, I can speak to that specifically because I just had COVID, and the extenuating circumstances beyond it after I got better has just been, brain fog, soreness,
Yeah.
joint pain, all those things. So we may need to talk offline because I may need to come
Yeah.
see you for sure.
I'm finding a couple really interesting common themes. Almost every patient has some very specific underlying infections that are expressing,
Yeah.
Epstein-Barr virus being one of them, which causes fatigue and brain fog. Also, it's why two people can be exposed to the same illness and have two different reactions. That gets down to their genetics. I'm finding some very specific genetic defects in the people that are still having issues that we can't change your genetics. They're as true as your hair and your eye color. But what we can do is give you some nutrients and some different lifestyle changes that could help them work better for you.
Yeah.
The example I like to use is just because you have the breast cancer gene doesn't mean you're going to get breast cancer. We can churn that gene on and off, and that's the field of epigenetics. So that's another place our practice has gone, because the human body isn't changing, right? It's been the same since creation or evolution, whatever you believe in. But science and technology and how we can look at it is, I would like to see in my lifetime, the scanner from Dr. Picard or Captain Picard, where you just go like this, right? I think we're getting closer. So there's a lot more we can do to help the hand of cards that you've been dealt work better for you. So I would love to dive in and look at your genes,
Yeah.
see what's going on.
We'll do it because, I have an autoimmune disease,
There it is.
that has been an issue. But for those of you that don't know, for our audience that either may see this on video or on the podcast, Dr. Picard is actually Captain Picard, right? From Star Trek.
Captain.
You're like the only, person that I would know that would bring that up in a podcast, and I love you for it. That's awesome.
Yeah. I called him doctor because, but no, I forget the name of the doctor.
I mean, let's be honest.
I forgot the name of the doctor that did the scan in Star Trek. My dad watched it. I watched it all growing up.
No, gosh. Oh my gosh.
In the Next Generation, it was the guy with the eyes.
Dr. Bones. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Bones was the original Star Trek, but the other guy, Data.
He was blind, but had the
Data. Or no, wait.
No.
I don't know.
I'm gonna go look it up after this. But yes, but they would just scan you, right, and say, "Oh, there's a genetic defect here. There's a infection here, right?" We're not there yet, but technology has changed, and we keep up with the latest technology of testing and treatments. So there's more and more we can know, and there's no deeper personalized medicine than looking at one's genetics and figuring out what to do with that. So that's something I'm really excited about, where our practice has gone in the last 5 or 6 years. And it used to be getting genetic testing was only for the rich and famous, right? We all know Angelina Jolie got the BRCA gene tested like way early on. It used to be thousands and thousands of dollars to test 1 or 2 genes. Now it's a couple hundred to test 55 genes. So it's really been an exciting evolution to watch that too. And so we keep up on all that, plus run a business.
Well, I mean, and that's sort of the entrepreneurial journey, right? You're adapting and adjusting and doing things that are outside of the boundaries. I've got a selfish question to ask, really, around the concept of just sort of that holistic and overall view perspective of the whole body scan. Is it really one of these situations where Western medicine is, you're kind of working against the business to a certain degree by doing it, right? Is that why there's so much resistance to it? Because it seems like every single person on the planet should be entitled to that, right? You should know what you're dealing with, what you might be in for, know some specific treatment plans to carry forward to better address those things. Like I have Alzheimer's in my family, right? It scares the hell out of me. I don't want it.
We can test for that gene.
Yeah. So being able to know that is so much better. And then if you look at it from how the normal healthcare system works, you would think it would make good business for the health insurance companies to support it and to provide coverage. But it's like this weird wall that goes up against it, right?
I don't even know where to start. So let me start kind of at the beginning. I'm going to go left a little bit here.
Sure.
I went to a women's retreat not too long ago, within the last year and a half, and I did a drumming shamanic journey. And I got a very clear message that it is time to spread this message, because exactly that. If there was a legacy I could leave, it would be that functional medicine is the first line of defense for things that you're not bleeding to death for, right? That you need
Yeah.
surgery. So fatigue, gut issues, headaches, insomnia, anxiety. Let's not medicate and numb people out. And I got this clear message. And that could be a whole podcast, my journey itself. And I woke up from it, and I just heard it's time. It gets time. And if there was one legacy I could leave, is that the insurance companies wake up and this is covered, and this is a thing that is exactly that. And this year, from that journey, I'm starting a nonprofit, and it's going to be functional medicine for everyone. That it is, because it is out of pocket. It can be
Yeah.
expensive. It's not covered by insurance. And quite frankly, if we can speak honestly, I know this is live. It's a lot of the pharmaceutical companies just have deep pockets, and there's not, this isn't a get rich quick scheme.
Right.
We're
Right.
fighting against the grain. We're asking people to make lifestyle changes. We've created a world that's so toxic that we as humans can barely exist in, and
Yep.
we're trying to detox the body from that every day, and it's not easy. It's not as easy as taking a pill that numbs your pain or taking a pill that changes your mood, but that's not healing. That's covering up the symptoms. That's
Yeah.
putting a Band-Aid on it. That's the analogy I like to use for that. It's driving down the road and your check-ins and soon light comes on, and you're just like, give me that duct tape. I'm just going to slap that over there, and I'm just going to keep going,
Yeah.
because I don't want to, I just want to cover it up. That's
Yeah.
what I believe most medications are doing to our bodies. And at the same time, sometimes they're needed and necessary. So I'm not anti-drugs. I'm not anti-Western medicine. I believe there's a time and place. And I believe a lot of the doctors are being so trained for their continuing education by the pharmaceutical companies that they're not doing their jobs. They're
Yeah.
not digging deeper. They're not asking why. Oh, you're tired. Your thyroid's not working. Why? Is there an autoimmune disorder? Is it that your adrenal glands are stressed out and the thyroid's compensating? Is there an underlying infection like Epstein-Barr virus? Those are the things we dig into and fix, versus just, oh, your thyroid's not working. Let's give you a lot of medication and
Yeah.
give you the medication that of the hormone that your body's not making. So told you I was going to go a little left, but
No, it's
yes.
good, and I agree 100%. I will tell you that I think, a buddy of mine and I had traveled early, before COVID theoretically was here in the States, right? And we both became, like, horribly sick over, and didn't know what it was, thought it was bad flu, obviously. 3 months later, COVID's here, right? And, um both of us had a long time kicking it, having a hard time. But really, from that point forward, it was one of these situations where I kept going back to my doctor and saying, "Hey, look, I've got the, I'm just, yeah, I know my body. I'm not right.
Right.
Things are not correct, right?" And at the end of the day, everything from, "Hey, let's try this medication," to, "Hey, maybe you have too much stress." The suggestion of, "Hey, maybe you should get a different job," like, and lower that.
Mm.
And granted, I feel like I have less stress than I've ever had, even though I'm more busy than I've ever been. But the reality was, it wasn't actually any effort to take it, to take a real deep dive approach into what was going on necessarily. It was more or less, let me throw you on some medication. Or perhaps I was depressed. So maybe I need to, get on like Zoloft or something. Like,
Yeah.
this is like, no, and so in I do have a good GP that, finally, has sort of, woken up to a few things that, I think they take a more measured step. But it is amazing how that approach was. My wife, Kathy, when she had our first son, she wasn't feeling right. And, she actually had a thyroid issue, it turned out. But for the first 9 months going to our doctor, at the time, this particular guy was basically like, "Look, this is standard stuff for females, and it's the change in hormones. let me put you on an antidepressant. It's like, what? She's not depressed. It's a legitimate issue. And finally, they did recognize it was a thyroid issue, but geez, it is crazy how quickly they write you off in terms of, hey, well, let's just write a script for it.
Yes. And that happened to me when I was 15. And I knew after I had my daughter, interesting you say that, and I nursed her for a year. It wasn't until I stopped nursing that I started having issues. I totally crashed, but I knew it to run, right? But exactly that, I hear that story a million times. Okay, so you think it's hormones, let's run her flipping hormones. Let's see what's
Mm-hmm.
out of balance versus, you know, the story I tell when I was 15 is when they put me on the antidepressant, okay, I was a little less sad, but I was still tired and in pain. It didn't fix
Yeah.
the problem, and you can't just go off that stuff because it will definitely mess with your brain chemistry. There's a certain way you have to go on it and go off of it, and it didn't fix the problem. And so I didn't even go to a doctor when I was started having issues. I just
Yeah.
said, I got to figure this out myself because I don't trust, and my husband and I go back and forth that I do have a chip on my shoulder of trusting Western medicine. And at the same time, if I get in a car accident and I break a leg, like, take me to the hospital,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right? There's a time and place. So I really think, and I mentioned by email that I hired a PR company this year. I really think that this Western medicine message has to get out that there's other ways to look at the body. And I don't want functional medicine and holistic medicine to be considered an alternative anymore. I want it to be a first line of defense. And it's a big mission that I'm taking on. And I know that I'll probably be going on against the grain. I could be targeted for spreading misinformation. I mean, I don't know if you follow Dr. Joseph Mercola,
I've
but
heard the name. Yeah.
he's got the largest holistic medicine website. He's an MD. He has a clinic in Florida. He was pushing back and questioning the effectiveness of people with vaccines and autoimmune disorders. And CNN showed up at his clinic, and he got ridiculed, and he
Yeah.
had to pull his website down. And it was, I had to do some deep soul searching after that journey and said, am I ready for this? And I just really thought on it and prayed on it and believed that that's why God put me on this earth and made me suffer so many times
Right.
with my own health, and made me figure it out on our own, between myself and my mom, of figuring it out on our own so that other people don't have to. So yeah, the journey that you went through, that your wife went through, I want that to not have to be the standard care of
Yeah.
medicine.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and whatever I can do to support it. I mean, talk about the essence of creating some positive ripples out there in the world. I mean, you're taking a stand, you're making your moves, and I have no doubt that you're going to make some ginormous changes in the industry because of your
Thank you.
commitment. I mean, just looking at what you've done, and just knowing you for who you are, I think that you're the right person to step up to the plate to do it for sure.
Thank you. That really touches my heart. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, of course. Well, so a couple of things, just to shift gears just a little bit. In everything that you've done, you know that I'm passionate about the ripple concept and the impact that it makes on the actions that we take that make a difference. Obviously, you do it every day with your patients, but in what regard do you think the ripple effect has played a role in your success in you becoming who you are today?
Ooh, that's a good one. I really appreciate the business advice I've gotten from the beginning, meeting people like you, like Corey Howell. I was involved in Texas Women in Business. I think that I've been given a lot of chances from taking the time to get to know people in my community, giving back, um, just being open to the next right new experience, and really getting to know people too, right? There's not as many networking events as there was in the past, but I think they're coming back. And I've realized early on, I'm not a superficial person.
Yeah.
When people ask me what I do, I often respond, well, do you really want to know? And do you have a second?
Yeah.
Like,
Because I do a lot. Yeah.
yeah, because I'm actually going to tell you, and I also really want to care and know, what you're doing. And I'm a big believer is bringing people up as you rise.
Yep.
I think the perfect example of this is there's now two people that work on my team that came to me in other roles and said, one of them, I want to be a health life coach, and she worked my front desk, and then she was my office manager, and I said, Great. Go get that certification. Let's make a place for you in this practice. And I'm in awe of her because she did it and she's working 30 hours a week with my clients, my patients.
It's awesome.
Those types of things of, how can I help you make your dream come true? And not because I want something back, but just because I'm in a position where I could help her.
Yeah.
I believe in karma and I believe that's the right thing to do. And I think it creates those positive ripples. The best thing I could hope for her is she helps a lot of people and helps somebody else make their, life transition into what they really want to do and they're passionate about come true at some point if she can.
Well, if you think about it, it's come full circle because that chiropractor that saw that in you encouraged that,
Yeah.
and look where you are. Now you're doing the same for her, and you do it for your entire team, right? For the people that you've brought on, they're all sort of enabled and given that sort of fuel and drive because you believe in them.
And I think also thanking people. Like I
Yeah,
have again wrote a paragraph about her in my book, but also have been face to face with her and have just said like thank you for encouraging me and hearing me and listening to me and taking 5 seconds out of our appointment time when you're fixing my back to say, you were happy. I saw happiness in you here. How
yeah,
can you get back there? And just really seeing me. And this is really high level, but if the whole world flipping took 2 seconds and really saw somebody and heard somebody and helped them the best that they can in their power, right? Even if it is just listening, we would not be in the crappy situations we're in right now.
agreed, 100%. I heard something just this week on a podcast, and I can't reference it because I don't remember the individual's name because I was listening to it at the gym. But his example really stood out to me. He said, there's a reason that people like magic tricks, like pick a card, any card kind of thing, or guess the number, that I have in my head, is because people legitimately want to think that there's one other human on the planet that might think what's going on inside of my brain. And
Oh,
and
wow.
to be able to have that is to know me. And if I can feel like one person out there, if a complete random stranger like a magician knows me, then maybe the rest of the world might want to know me too.
And I think that's really what we all kind of want to feel in life, right? Known and seen and heard. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And I think that's a big part of healing. A lot of people, when we do what we call our timeline history, when they come in and we find out when the autoimmunity expressed or when the infection hit, most of the time they were in a fight or flight stress state, lonely, going through something that was traumatic. We call it triggering events. And I definitely think the mind body connection matters with healing. We're one of the only countries in the world that separates the mind from the body, right? If there's underlying depression, isolation, talk about isolation the last couple of years, I think that's opportunity for the immune system to dip and for you to be weaker as a human, which affects your physical also.
Well, and I think from, just a general person's point of view is that there's a little bit of shame around that, right? So when those things happen, we're not often talking to anybody about them, right? We're just like, well, I'm just having a rough period, or I'm blue, or I'm just unmotivated or uninspired, but I'm not necessarily telling people that because then they look at me because I'm lazy, or I don't want to do the work. And the reality is there's this stigma around it, right? That I think fortunately, especially around the mental health aspect, Simone Biles and,
Mhm.
Naomi Osaka, athletes that are starting to put themselves first before their profession and their job, which I think is bringing this to the table a lot more. But we still have a long way to go to recognize that.
Yeah, 100%, right? And if we don't put ourselves first, the career is gonna fall apart anyway.
Yeah.
And talk about a stressed out industry. I treat a lot of therapists, psychotherapists. Talk about if somebody's on the fence of what they should do with their life and they have any interest, we need more nurses and therapists.
Yeah. Yeah.
I recently asked a patient like, "Hey, we need some help here. Do you have a therapist? If not, can you find one? I'll help you find one." We can't get her in for 8 to 10 weeks somewhere.
Yeah.
And therapists are struggling because they're being asked to help people navigate through something they're trying to navigate in the pandemic right now. I think it's getting a little better, but thankfully, the shortages because more and more people are reaching out because of these, celebrities, athletes speaking
Yeah.
about it. And I think it's important because life is hard. It
It
sucks
is.
sometimes and it disrupts our brain chemistry and that's okay. And antidepressants are there for a reason, in my opinion, short term to get you through crises. You know, if it's a long-term thing, then there's something else going on that needs to
Yeah.
be, you know, dug into and looked at. But there shouldn't be any shame around going on those things. And at the same time, let's figure out why your brain chemistry is not working.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I could tell you we could talk for hours. We're definitely going to have to do a part 2 on this podcast without question. This is going to be well received by my audience. But I've got a couple of Ripple specific questions for you. What is your
Sure.
superpower,
Ooh.
and how do you use it?
I think my superpower is listening and asking the right questions to find and figure out puzzles, whether that's in the medical field or just helping friends get through something.
Yeah, I love it. I would add, knowing you and going all the way back to when I first met you, being authentic is one of those superpowers you have as well, because you
Oh,
genuinely ask the question, but you mentioned it earlier, right? Because you really do want to know what that person's story is, what's going
hmm.
on in their life, and what you can do maybe to contribute. So just
Thank
makes you
you.
an excellent rippler. If you weren't doing what you're doing today professionally, what would you be doing?
So I have two career crushes. The first is hypnotherapy because I've had some profound um, traumatic trauma release healing
Wow.
through hypnosis, including past life regression, which is again could be another topic. So much so that I've bought the courses, I just haven't taken them because in my spare time.
Yeah.
And an esthetician. I love watching like the pimple popper doctor.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a dermatologist because I want like the relaxing
Yeah.
experience. But every time I've gotten a facial, I just kind of look up at her like, oh, I want to do that
Yeah.
someday. So maybe I'll go back to esthetician school. I don't know. So, but what I wanted to be when I was a kid was a veterinarian. And in high school, I went and spent a day on the job with a veterinarian, and I walked out of there and said, hard no. Nope. Nope. They let me go into like, you know, spading and neutering. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Mm.
hard no.
Yeah.
I can't, it's not cuddling puppies. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't do that to a dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might could do that to a human, but not to a dog. So there
I
was
love
that.
that.
My whole life like crumbled before me in a moment,
Yeah.
but it all worked out.
Hey, well, it's good. At least you got it out of your system like right then and there.
Mhm.
So that's a positive. So if you had a colleague or a patient or a friend, how would you like them to describe you to somebody else?
I think authentic,
Yeah.
caring and authentic. I mean, I think that is the best compliment ever, caring and authentic.
Well, you are definitely that. And what a great way to end, because I think anybody that hears this, anybody that sees it, they are going to want to know more. So, a couple of things, right? Tell us how people can learn about, the your book, learn about
Yeah.
your practice, how they get in touch with you.
Yeah, so the book is on Amazon. It's called What to Do When Your Doctor Gives Up on You. And
Great title,
my
by
name
the way.
thank
This is a
you.
great title.
Thank you, because that's the experience I had, and I write about it, and I also write about what we do in the office to heal, and someone could take a lot of that and figure it out themselves. I also and my name is so unique, you could totally put it in Amazon. My personal website is drteneshawards.com, and there's programs on there that you can even buy. Our wellness center is called the Infinity Wellness Center. There's an your Infinity Way program where you can also buy and do a step-by-step kind of self-healing program, or you could work with us individually. And then locally, it is Austin Holistic Doctor, Austin Holistic DR. And all of our handles are Infinity Wellness ATEX. And if you're not familiar with ATEX, it's short for Austin, Texas.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. Well, Tanisha, I am so grateful that you came on the podcast. You are awesome. I'm so proud to know you and to be your friend and to see your success continue. And now hearing, where you want to go and what you want to do, I'm 100% behind you, and anything I can do to help support you in any way, I am right there with you. So,
Awesome. Thank you. And I've always been one of your biggest fans, Steve. So keep doing
thanks. I
what you're
appreciate that.
doing. It's changing the world for the better.
Well, I appreciate that. And we're back with the 8-minute ripples. So I'll send you some info because we're doing them virtually so that we can expand our audience. So maybe there's an
I love
opportunity
it.
to do something fun with your clinic. But At any rate,
Absolutely.
we will definitely come back and revisit this on another episode, because there's a sequel here for sure. I mean, I didn't even get to half the questions I wanted to ask you because this is just so awesome. So we'll definitely do it again.
I love it. I'd love to.
All right. Well, you take care, and thank you so much for being a part of the Ripple Effect podcast, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Ripple on.